Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and this little bit of disappointment is the Lisle 37160 Disconnect plier. Now Lisle makes a bunch of different ones. I wasn't sure exactly which one was going to work, but I also knew this would kind of narrow down the potential for what I'm after. However, I'm kind of disappointed with this thing regardless of how it actually performs up at the front end with the disconnect. One of the things I use them for are actually these 4-cavity connectors, which are used for backup cameras. And a lot of times if I'm working on sliding campers and things on trucks and they've got a backup camera in the tailgate and I take the tailgate off or have to relocate the backup camera so it's not just pointing towards the road, you need to crawl under and disconnect these things. And often you're doing it in the spring, and often it's cold out, and it's a little recessed cavity you're trying to reach into, and you can't really see. And these are totally covered in grit and grime, especially from the winter. So you don't know if you depressed it, if you can get it apart, even if it's released. And of course, you can't see what you're doing a lot of times. You know, the manufacturers give you almost zero extra cable, so everything's nice and taut up against the frame. But anyway, what I was after was a pair of disconnect pliers, and these are often designed, this shape, this 85-degree bend with these notches, is more for evap lines and def fittings and things like that, but it does work on electrical connectors, and this is an example of one here. Now I've tried it with other things. If everything lines up just perfect, you might be able to do it with a pair of you know, like slip joints or something, but generally things don't line up quite like that. This is wedged up against a frame, you know, or it's twisted or something. These aren't too bad. If I can feel exactly where it lands, it'd be nice if these were notched a little different, or I assume that the factory actually has a tool that is in this shape. But anyway, if you slip off, you might break something or snap off a tab, and then you might have ruined the connector. Occasionally needle nose you can get in there, but you only can get in with the very tips of them. Anything more and the angle changes and they don't fit anymore. I'm kind of thinking Snap-on, all I got to do is bend these tips. In fact, I can see so many uses for this plier if they start messing around with the shape of the tip on it. But anyway, going back to these. So why am I disappointed? Well, first of all, this is how they arrived. And I thought, oh good, they're spring-loaded and they've got a rubber band here. So I pull this rubber band, which looks like a cut piece of inner tube. And there it is. And, well, that spring really can't do anything because these are so incredibly tight. You know, that there's a... you really have to get a couple of fingers in there to try to pry them apart. And this is often something where you have to get them nice and wide. Now they do work for my intended purpose if I line them up, but I can't just, you know, squeeze back and forth very easily like this to get them in there. If I miss, or if I come down, you know, in the wrong spot, like I missed there, to open them up, well, I can't really get them wide enough. They don't get wide enough just with a little bit of a flick there. I literally have to start over again and hope I line them up. Now, if I do line them up, great, this pops out free, everything's wonderful. The workmanship on the front end, though, I mean, is pretty crude. I mean, I don't know, they bludgeoned these tips out of that sheet metal, it looks like. So, you know, not only are they super stiff, but they're not finished all that well. And because I'm, you know, generally you're trying to reach in there, you know, and get things lined up, and you're working the plier back and forth, you know, maybe with two hands if you're lucky, but maybe not, and you just want to tap it until you feel like, you know, you think you've caught the thing that you want, you know, to see. But sometimes you don't want to be pulling against it if it's not depressed. And the smaller pliers, you might go right down in a hole, just like I did there. But anyway, that's so the finish work isn't right. I don't mind the shape because that's how it's designed. But this is the big thing. I was out trying them, and guess what? I scratched myself pretty bad twice. Why? Well, look at this spring. Even though it's maybe useless, the way this thing sticks out, and of course they just chopped it off. So there's actually some really rough edges right up along the edge here. It's hard to see, but how about this? Imagine this is your skin. So if you rub it, and you do when you're reaching up, or you can see how this could, your finger or your, I almost did it there, your skin can rub against this. So here, clean piece of cardboard, look at that. Just slices right through it. I'm not digging in. I mean, here, look, I can just hold it up against that. Like this. My fingers are out of the way here, and if I can launch that, it just slices it. The way they stick up. I mean, that is crazy. So I don't think that's a well thought out design. The rivet's too tight. Finish work's not that great. They weren't that expensive. They were about 20 bucks. But in reality, I am disappointed with them. However, I'm going to reach out to you. What would be a good disconnect plier for this particular kind of fitting? Is there something that's even better, maybe than me shopping around for different disconnect pliers? I've seen some with little metal tips. That's really close to what I have here, so I didn't go that route. But you see how I slipped down in there? I could easily break this fitting with those. So anyway, just curious what you'd suggest, and I can't recommend these as they're finished the way they are. They're just Lisle. I don't know what they're slipping, and they are made in the USA. But look at that. I mean, the spring can't fight against these things. Anyway, with that, Doc out.